August is turning out to be an interesting month for cinema goers, with a terrifying assortment of films and series to round out the last month of summer. But before I sink my teeth into Voyage of the Demeter, or take a stab at my favorite show, Only Murders in the Building,
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I'd like to first address something that probably should not have found its way into August, and something I typically would not cover. It's the current actor strike. What started out as the WGA strike was quickly forgotten about when Sag-Aftra took over, which, speaking of from being forgotten about, the interesting thing about this strike is those that seem to be most vocal. While I might have thought about the usual suspects being at the forefront of a strike of this magnitude, it seems to be those actors who most of us had either forgotten were once stars or others nobody really knew were that are leading the charge. Among the many who have shared their thoughts on the matter, three comments seem to stand out, starting out almost reasonably on the surface, so long as no further thought is applied, and gradually descending into greed and narcissism, revealing the spoiled, rotten core at the issue. First, let's look at former nanny turned SAG-AFTRA president Fran Drescher's comments about living wages and healthcare, as she revealed in several interviews and in speeches that roughly 86% of SAG-AFTRA members cannot qualify even for health insurance, with the minimum earning amount needed being roughly $26,000 a year, which, if we apply that to a 40-hour work week, would be about $12.50 an hour. The problem with this logic, though, is that most SAG-AFTRA workers are not acting for 40 hours a week for 52 weeks in that year. In fact, the minimum qualifications to being accepted into SAG are to have worked 3 days as background talent, also known as just an extra, on a SAG production, or to have worked 1 day as a principal actor or leading role in a SAG production. My point in addressing the qualifications is that they are unbelievably low. So let's say, for example, you're an aspiring actor who met these 3-day qualifications and decided to join SAG. Then, maybe after a week or two, you land a role, and since you're new, it's going to be a background role. And that's all the work you got with SAG for the year. At the end of that year, you are still part of this union, and counted among that 86% who did not make that $26,000 in the year. So let's ask ourselves, in what other field could you possibly work where after a week, or generously maybe even a month total of work, with each job generally lasting only a day or two, longer scale productions have more days, would you think it would be fair to have enough money to live comfortably for the rest of the year, with benefits and everything included? And again, keeping in mind that most actors are background actors, paid to walk back and forth or just stand in the background of shots. How do I know? Well, when I was younger, I actually did it fairly often, taking these sorts of odd jobs to fill in my schedule when I was still trying to break in as a cameraman. And that's really what it should be seen as. It's a fun sort of side gig to make a bit of extra cash at best, not a major career with pension. So next, let's look at the comments made by everyone's favorite Galaxy Guardian, Sean Gunn. His primary argument is that actors should receive higher residual pay, which is pay in addition to their base salary, for every time a show is streamed on platforms like Netflix, believing that the higher-ups are withholding streaming numbers so that they don't need to pay their actors higher residuals, and that actors should share in the profits of project success. Gunn, however, is missing the point here in two ways. First, shockingly so, actors are not the center of the universe, and in matters like streaming numbers and what information is released or not released to the public, very likely this has nothing to do with them, and more likely than not, in the case of platforms like Disney+, where Mr. Gunn is currently most likely to be found, the numbers probably aren't all that good, and just might reflect poorly on the streaming platform. Secondly, again, shocker, but it takes more than just actors to make a series. Between directors, assistant directors, script supervisors, cinematographers, camera operators, first AC, second AC, gaffers, grips, best boy, boom ops, assistant editors, color graders, Foley artists, the list just doesn't stop, right? Everyone on the crew contributes to the success of a show. And not only are the actors paid more than everyone else on the crew, but only the actors get this residual pay, which seems to be unfair. So, in my view, there just shouldn't be residual pay to begin with. Do the job, get paid, again, more handsomely than everyone else on the crew, and move on. Now let's look at what has arguably become the most infamous clip, that of everyone's favorite modern iteration of a timeless character, Rachel Zegler. There really isn't much of an argument to counter with her statements of demanding pay for every single hour streamed because of her terribly demanding experience of standing in a Snow White costume for an alleged 18 hours a day. Now, granted, film sets are long. They go for long hours, and 18 hours is pretty common. But like Mr. Gunn, again, she forgets about literally everyone else on that set. Hauling equipment, setting it up, operating it correctly, striking at the end of each day, easily working 2, 3, 4 hours of manual labor beyond what the actors work, during which time the principal actors are generally also given tents and chairs and places to wait out the long periods while the rest of the crew does actual physical work. It's the easiest job on set by a long shot, and, well, again, how do I know?
Ever heard of Norca Ball? Give me 2 minutes. I'm gonna blow your mind. And you want to get in the ball too.
I've had principal roles, and was unbelievably grateful for the experience, which is what seems to be lacking from everyone involved here. There's a massive absence of gratitude for the fact that these actors not only get to participate in an art form of film, but can make a living off of it if they work hard and are dedicated to their craft like all of us behind the camera are. It's a privilege to get to do what we do, and even during the long days, the hard work is worth it. At least to me, because I love it and I'm grateful for every time I get to be behind the camera. Well, that's it for today. Remember to keep your lighting soft, your focus sharp, and I'll see you next time.
I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.